Well, oh, that was something else. Once again, live on tape from a secret, undisclosed location hidden somewhere deep in the bowels of downtown St. John's, Newfoundland, comes in the Library of Graphic Literature with your host, me, Wallace Roy. And how's everyone doing there today? Let's have a bit of tea here. Bit of English breakfast tea. Anyway, not a lot of comics out this week, so what do? I thought to myself, Wallace, what do you do? And I thought, well, I could skip it, but you know, I actually like sitting down and shooting at least something for you folks, anything. And I had a lot of work earlier, and I didn't get around to, because I was looking around, what am I going to talk about, and just drew a blank. But then it was just like, well, it's only one book I got this week, and maybe I could use that in terms of sharing something with you good folks out there. And the only book that I did get this week, funny enough, is Nobody is in Control from Black Mask, brought to you by the writer Patrick Kindlon, Paul Tucker the artist, and the letterer Wallace Ryan. Sound familiar? Oh my god, that's me. Anyway, and I inked 2 pages in this too. So it's finally out in softcover form, all in one big happy package. We'll have a look at that in a second. And I thought, you know, I should talk a little bit about lettering for all you folks out there. Give you an idea about, you know, what it entails, what, you know, what's the day of a letterer like? As a matter of fact, the funny thing, when Paul first approached me to letter his comic form, usually I would never letter someone else's comic strip because I always thought of it as my handwriting. But he's a good friend of mine, and you know, we'd always wanted something to work together on, and it was just like, well, hey, let's give this a try anyway. Sounds like a bit of fun, and you know, and it did pay, so it was just like, yeah, let's do it. And we really enjoyed it, had a lot of fun, and now I'm working on another piece of project of his, and that's what I'm working on here now. And so and like I said, I work on my own projects, so, but I thought, geez, you know, I gotta show people how this is done, right? Anyway, so I guess I do other drawing stuff like that too, but you know, I always liked lettering. There was something about lettering that I always enjoy. I find it very easy. I'm very fast at it, which is the other thing. And it's funny because we were at a art exhibition about a year or so ago. There was me and Paul and Scott Chandler and Jason Lutz were there, and we were talking at one point, and I mentioned the fact that I could letter faster than people could do it using computers. And Scott said, no, you can't. And Paul said, yes, he can. But yeah, I am fast. I keep a diary, actually. I've kept a diary for over 15 years now. And I hand print it. So I am pretty quick. I think that's part of the reason why I got so quick over these years. So anyway, what does it take to letter? Well, for one thing, it takes a drafting table like what I'm sitting at here now. These tilted tables, these are perfect for drawing at. And it's better than drawing on a flat table. Flat table is the worst thing you could draw on. Get yourself a drafting table. Well, even if you're into drawing, you really should be using a drafting table. Drawing on a flat surface is actually pretty bad for your back. And but using drafting table, I could draw for hours on end. So get yourself a drafting table. Then along with that, there's other equipment like a T-square. And you can imagine why it's called a T-square. And then, you know, there's all these things like this. This is called a triangle, funny enough. And the most important piece, at least for lettering, is this little baby here. This is called an Ames lettering guide. They're made by Statler now, and you can still buy these actually. And this is the best little thing for lettering. It's the best tool for lettering out there. It's, well, of course, it's so you can hand letter, and people have used them for decades. I've been using it since I've been, 17, 18 years old. I can't remember how old I was. But I first discovered this, actually, it was either in the back of Starlog or Comic Scene. Todd Klein, God bless you, Todd, because I consider you the one who taught me how to letter. He did and you can find this on his site and online anyway, and it's a little guide about how to use this little thing. And basically, I was just astounded myself and my friend Jerry Porter when we were doing comics. We used to do little measurements on the side of the comic page going up and draw lines out from that to try to keep our lettering straight. It was a hell of a time. But then we discovered this little thing, and it was just like, oh my God, with this thing you can draw perfect little guidelines in which to do your lettering, and they're all perfectly spaced. It's perfect. It was just like, oh my God, where have you been all my life? So of course it was originally used by draftspeople and architects for when making their blueprints, but us comic book people, we stole it because it was just so damn good. So anyway, and I've used it ever since. I like using it, and I actually prefer hand lettering to fonts and computer lettering, because when I see I can recognize computer lettering a mile away. To me, it's bland, it's boring, big yawn. I like what Mobius once said when he was asked why he didn't have someone letter his comics for him, and he said that basically it was his handwriting, and that always stuck with me. So that's, to me, that's lettering is an integral part of of comic books themselves, and I think doing computer fonts it's like a little bit soulless. It just takes something away from it. Hand lettering adds a lot to it. As a matter of fact, when one of the things when Paul asked me to hand letter his comic form, one of the stipulations was that the credit read hand lettered by, not just lettered by Wallace Ryan, hand lettered, because big difference, I think. And so if you're a young comic book artist and getting into it, pick yourself up one of these and give it a try. It really does, I think, add a whole flavor to the comic book. And check out Nobody's in Control. You'll see what good hand lettering looks like. Anyway, how does lettering start? Where does it begin? What do I do to start? Well, first of all, I start with a script. He sends me a script. Actually, it was funny when he sent me the script for Nobody's in Control, and I read the script. It was in 4 parts, but he gave me the first 3 parts, and I read through that, and it was just like, oh my God, this comic is really good. Which is, I know it sounds strange to say that, like, oh yeah, well, I'm sure everyone says it's really good, but it was a great, it was so good that I asked him, do you got part 4 there? And he was like, no, Patrick is just finishing off right now. And I was dying to read the end of it. And of course, he got the end of it, and I read it, and it was just, and I said to Paul, this is actually a really good comic. And it makes a difference when you're working on a project too, I think, that is very good. So, it just makes it, I don't know, it really inspires you. Now, one of the most important things when you're lettering is to have a cup of tea ready. No, okay, so I take the script, and I go through the script. Sometimes I'll mark up where, how many lines I'll have on each, how many words I'll have on each line or whatever. But one thing that Paul and I do, and I'm using here this, I'm not going to tell you what this, but it's a project we're working on here now. What we'll do is when he's doing his drawing, this is a scene he's drawing here, is he will actually draw, you can sort of see the rough pencils here, right? Let me show. Let me get up close here with you. Oh, oh. Okay. I figure this is... Okay, it's a bit dark there, but you can see the letter boxes up there on the top scene there. And you can see he sort of roughs in the script as he's going along there. And I like that too, because it actually gives me a, it gives me a feeling for where he wants the word balloons, because I default to him when it comes to the word balloons, because it's his art that I'm lettering over, so I want him to let me know where I can letter over and where I can't. So he'll actually do out, like I say, rough sketches, and he'll letter in the script very quickly there, and then I'll come over it and I'll take my lettering guide and you can see on this one here, this is one that's it's almost ready for lettering is almost ready to be inked here. So I'll letter in all the dialogue, then I'll go back and I'll do my boxes next. This one I really like because there's a lot of lettering. This project this project, this is by Patrick Kindlon and same guy who wrote Nobody's in Control. I like it because it's a lot of dialogue. It's just like, it's challenging. I love it. So yeah. So basically, once I get the lettering down, I'll go over and I'll use my technical pens here to, and this is what I use to letter. A technical pen, I use a number, a number 3 and a number 2, I do believe it is. Hang on a second. Yeah, these are the two, which is unusual. I know a lot of people are surprised when I tell them I actually letter with a technical pen. These I like because they're refillable. They're not cartridges or whatever, and they're not dip pens. I had to use dip pens at different points for lettering. I will actually line off the boxes and all that and do the word balloons using the good old-fashioned ink pen like these. And this one is probably older than most of you folks out there. I've had this particular one, I think, for at least 20 or 30 years, maybe, something like that. Yeah, a long time. But anyway, so what I do is, so this one is done, so I put that aside. Then I'll take this page that I'm working on now, and I'll tape it down using masking tape. You don't want to use anything else, because anything but masking tape can rip the artwork. So I tape it to my drawing table, and I can use this thing. So what I'll do is I'll go into where he got a sentence there, and I'll actually erase his sentence there. Then I'll take I'll take my lettering guide, and I'll take my pencil, which is very sharp. That's the other thing, when you're lettering too, your pencil has to be very sharp. So I use this, I'll use a pencil sharpener. This one's a really nice one. I tend to use the metal ones too, they're really good. Oh, here's another cool thing too. A lot of times, if the lettering is really dark that I'm trying to get rid of, I'll actually use a lettering of my electric eraser, and I'll go over it, and this will erase everything off of it. It's a perfect little tool. They don't make those no more. Well, they do make them, but they're battery powered ones. Then I take this one, the lettering guide, and when you're using the lettering guide, you only use the bottom row of them, and you only use the dots here that are linked by these loops. Like I say, you can go online and find Todd Klein's exercise. He'll show it to you closer up. Then I just lay it down there, and I just go back and forth. And I won't make them too dark, because the guidelines, because you don't want them so dark that when you erase it, because you got to erase it after you ink it to shoot it. So So what you're left with, I'm going to come over here to show you, is right there. You can see the those are ready to be written on. As a matter of fact, I'll show you when you look at the other page that's ready to be lettered. See that? You can see the lettering there and the guidelines. So that's the one thing that tool, good old lettering guide, will do for you. This is a good old lettering guide. That's what it does. It lays down those lines for you to be able to do your lettering on. And I can, like I said, I've been using this for so long. I'm very fast for it, so I can lay down lots of lines. Then I just sit and I letter quick as I can, and then go right down to it and ink it all. So that's basically how me as a letterer works. Anything else that's cool around here? Oh yeah, and for erasers, I tend to use a kneaded eraser, which is really good because it's like a gum eraser it's like Play-Doh or whatever. The best thing about this is if you're erasing and you only want to erase a tiny little bit of an area and not everything surrounding it, is that you can make it into a point and you can just erase a tiny little bit of it, which is kind of cool. Got lots of corkback steel rulers too. I use those when I'm doing the the word balloons or the narration boxes. I use your standard white erasers for erasing. This is a type of eraser that I don't use. I never did like these gum erasers. These aren't the best, so don't use those. And I think that's about it in terms of good equipment. Now the ink used in the pen is a different ink from used when I'm doing the word balloons and the boxes and all that. For the word balloons, I use actually just plain old India ink for doing that. This is Speedball Super Black India ink. It's just India ink. It's kind of bragging about being super black. So it's a great one. And when I'm using that, I pour the ink into shot glasses. These I like because they're heavy and it's hard to knock them over. So that's the perfect thing to use when inking. Now, and I think that's about it in terms of equipment. Oh yeah, and my tape dispenser here is a good old-fashioned tape dispenser. It's from, I got this out of my dad's office years ago, and it's fabulous. And of course, if I'm going to ink somewhere, like down at the comic book store or something like that, I'll actually bottle up a bit of ink and take it with me. And oh yeah, and sometimes I will use brushes, depending on word balloons or this I will use for big sound effects. I will use brushes for big sound effects because I can do them really fast and they look really cool. For small little stuff, once in a while I will use a crow quill. I use this very rarely, but sometimes I will use this when lettering, say, stuff on a newspaper that someone's reading or something like that. So, that's what it's like to be a letterer. Now, before I go, another shameless plug here once again for Nobody's in Control by Patrick Kindlon, Paul Tucker, and me, Wallace Roy. It's, oh yeah, and in the back here is this kick-ass, this would have been the alternate cover for the second printing of issue number 2 by my good buddy Judd Haynes here in St. John's, Newfoundland, and he's an absolutely amazing poster maker, artist, and we love this. It was just, we feel like kicking ourselves that we never got to use it, but it's absolutely amazing. But Paul himself did all the layout on this too, and like I say, it was a really fun one to letter. I love these. I mean, look at all that lettering. This thing was made to hand letter. And there's some of my sound effects. I love doing sound effects too. Part 2. So it's a great count. It's worth reading. I have actually read it, and I like it. But yeah, oh, here's one of my favorite. This is where a gun attack, machine gun attack, the brecker, and so I got to. This is actually one of my favorite pages for sound effects out of this whole thing. Absolutely cool. And I think it was, no, there's, oh yeah, and here's 2 pages in it here that I actually lettered for him. He wanted a slightly different look, so, inked it for him, so I lettered and inked this. So it gave a whole different look to it. Here's chapter 3. And I changed the lettering, the word balloons or the page numbers down in the corner as much as I could from issue to issue. I provided a little different format for every single one of them, and then the last one I just used little file folders like that. And this actually is my favorite. The last one is my favorite because, well, we were really hitting our stride then, and it came out good. There's my no. I like that. That and this, those my squared off balloons like that I stole from Frank Miller from Ronin. When I first seen that when I was in my 20s, it was just like, my God, I love these squared off, these rectangular style balloons. Now I only use them for dramatic effect now. I'll tend to use round ones generally for the most part, and I'll use the angular ones for that. And and there was one, as a matter of fact, there was one scene in here where there's these people shouting at them from helicopters, and I'd hand lettered it, but I never quite liked the look of it. And Paul, he said, well, do you want me to try Fountain? And I was just like, sure, go ahead. And he did it, and it was absolutely fabulous. There it is again, the put your hands on your head, blah, 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 blah. Drop your weapon, blah, blah, blah. Work perfectly. And here's one, and this is, I show this actually sometimes to my kids when I'm teaching them lettering in my classes, is for certain sound effects, if I'm not sure what they sound like, I'll try to look them up online and listen to whatever it is and then try to come up with a sound effect. So this had a waterfall in it, so I had to find, I found a video of a waterfall and I just listened to it over and over and over again, and then I came up with this shh. That's exactly what a waterfall sounds like, just a constant shh. And I rounded up some of the letterings, and now it got louder as you got closer to it. And of course bluish, or like that psh there. You know, rounded lettering for anything having to do with water, I found. There's my pacow. And this was great because I got to do all kinds of, and a blam up there, I got to do all kinds of cool sound effects. Whoosh, 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 bloosh. And even a couple of pages of nothing but my lettering. So I was kind of like the star for that page. But yeah, it was a great project to work on. It is actually a very good book too. So go out and buy it. It's on the stands today. Anyway, love this one. It's great to have one in my collection for myself. Anyway, that's it for this episode. It's a bit of a strange episode of In the Library of Graphic Literature. But you're in the Library of Graphic Literature. You're just in the studio section of it here. That being said, I'll let you all go back to whatever it is you do on a Friday night. And myself, I'm waiting for my friend Ian to drop by, and we're going to hang out and talk about politics. Because I'm actually running for a seat on my city council here in St. John's, Newfoundland, so wish me luck. Anyway, that being said, hopefully should have a few books for you to talk about next week. And in the meantime, keep reading, and I'll see you same time, same bad channel. Thanks for having me over. Okay, see you later. Bye. Walk out and jump out the window here. Ah!